All right, hey VC, I'm Jamie. Welcome back. We're back with another video and back with another vinyl finds, maybe too much vinyl finds in this one. This could be quite a long one. Records I've picked up over the past month or so that I haven't had a chance to show you, including some leftovers from Record Store Day, the last one. I know we're already looking ahead to Record Store Day, Black Friday coming up in November. I've got some Record Store Day leftovers, also some personal grails, some albums I've come across that have eluded me for quite a while, and some thrift store finds, online finds, that sort of thing. So let's get started with, did not think I would come across a copy of this one. This came in rather late to my local record store. Sound Fixation managed to grab a copy of the Prince, The Gold Experience. This one from the last Record Store Day. This is the replica of the expanded limited edition promo version of Prince's 1995 album on 2 gold LPs, of course featuring the track Most Beautiful Girl in the World. Not thrilled with, again, it's a promo. It has that look of a promo copy, but this really hard to read print on this sticker. I kind of wish they would have done something slightly different with that, but certainly enjoyed and did not think I would come across this one, because boy, this I think had to be one of the most popular ones from the last Record Store Day. There were so many VC videos on this one, so happy to pick this up and certainly enjoyed listening to it. Okay, Canadian band. This is Voivod. This is like a prog metal band out of Quebec and Montreal, I believe. I was familiar with this album when it came out. This is, again, these are both from Record Store Day. And in fact, the one that was in the on the shelves, the one guy working at the record store says, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know we got that one in." So that was kind of nice. So this is Voivod, first LP reissue of this 1989 prog thrash metal classic, newly mastered for vinyl by Peter Moore. This one featuring pink with blue swirl vinyl, limited to 6,000 copies. I remember when this came out, especially because they do a cover of Pink Floyd's Syd Barrett's Astronomy Domini, which is great, and it really just kind of makes the album accessible. And yeah, absolutely terrific. So very cool vinyl on that one. So that's the one, Voivod, and this one's called Nothing Face. Now the other one is Voivod, and it is called Angel Rat. First North American LP release, the 1991 prog metal masterpiece, newly mastered for vinyl by Peter Moore. This one, deep purple with lime monster green swirl vinyl, limited to 6,000 copies as well. But I don't think the vinyl comes across very well on here. At least you can, well, I guess you can see it a little bit there. It's not too bad, but there you go. I don't have a lot of prog thrash metal in my collection, but happy to pick these two albums up and certainly enjoyed. Okay, this was a Steve Carlson recommendation, as I recall. I think he spotlighted this one again, Record Store Day one. This is a band called The Rationals, and it's really a great album. The 1970 release by legendary Detroit R&B garage band. Includes its lavender vinyl, includes a reproduction handbill, limited edition of 1,200 units, and I got number 95. And I think this band is, like, they're from Michigan, but I'm not sure if they're from Detroit or Grand Rapids, but well worth seeking out if you find some leftover copies. Sort of the time period, there's always like a few covers. They do a cover of Barefootin', that song, but it's really got that great, sort of R&B garage, like a little psychedelic thrown in for the mix. And let's take a look at the vinyl, and it is a really cool sort of little sort of poster, sort of postcard thing that's included, which is nice to see. And the vinyl, just straightforward paper sleeve, but there you go, the lavender lavender vinyl. Okay, I'll just pop that in quickly there. Yeah, so very happy to have picked that one up. Okay, and that's it for the Record Store Day ones. I did pick up David Bowie's Low album. I didn't have this one on vinyl, and this is part, of course, of the official Bowie reissue series. And yeah, 45th anniversary orange vinyl, limited edition. And I've been very impressed with the packaging with this. You get a nice insert, that gives you, of course, the song credits and that sort of thing. No lyrics, but you know who's playing on which track. And you get straightforward paper sleeve with the orange vinyl. But then you also get, also included a sort of original production sort of inner sleeve, if you will, if I can pop it out here. You get this as well, sort of the made in England thing. So I thought that was really kind of a nice little, just nice little added touch, if you will. And they kind of had that on the David Bowie, at least the CD box set reissues, where they've had the CDs in nice little plastic sleeves, which, you know, for CD, you don't really have to do that, but it's just that nice little extra added touch for something like that. So I thought that was a nice little addition. Nice for that. Okay, another sort of, you know, reissue, REM's Automatic for the People. A great REM album. I've always really enjoyed this one. This is a 25th anniversary vinyl, remastered audio, 180 gram vinyl. And, you know, again, with the song Drive, Everybody Hurts, and Man on the Moon, and the beautiful song Night Swimming. And just nice to have this on vinyl. Okay, yeah, and it's basically, yeah, 180 gram vinyl. There you go. Okay, now here's some personal grails. There's some albums I just never thought I'd come across. Certainly for this one, for punk fans, this is Dead Kennedys and Franken Christ, and this is an OG or original copy that contains all of the inserts except one. It does not contain the PMRC insert, which is like it's kind of a rally against the PMRC. That was the parents resources, or parents registered music, something like that at the time. That was kind of the Tipper Gore thing, which was the censorship issue. So it was like an anti-PMRC thing, but it does include the original sleeve, also original advertisement for the record label, and it includes the poster as well. So I was pretty happy to come across this. So this is the original inner sleeve, and we have that. And then, of course, let's take a look at the album on Alternative Tentacles. There we have that. And it does include the poster. Now, I'm not comfortable showing you the poster. You can Google the poster for the image, but this poster, I guess, was originally supposed to be on the cover, but then, of course, it got regulated to the poster. And so I'll just show you the very, very top of it, just so you know that it's definitely been included with this, but you can Google the rest of the image. And the image actually was created by the same person who did the Emerson, Lake and Palmer brain salad surgery, also did the alien monster, that sort of thing. H.R. Geiger, G-I-G-E-R is his spelling. Okay, and then the other inserts, as I'd mentioned with this, it does include the original record label advertisement. But then I just printed out, certainly just a computer printout to give you an indication of what the other insert would have looked like. This was again for the sort of rallying against the PMRC, the Parents, I think it was the Parents Resource Music Center, something like that. So that's what the one side would have looked like, and then the other side, that sort of thing, sort of a thing to get more information on that in terms of Dead Kennedys rallying against censorship and that sort of thing. But you often don't see the poster included with this one. And the poster doesn't have like any, you know, thumbtack holes in it or anything like that. So I was pretty happy to come across that. And another classic from the Dead Kennedys. As I say, that poster originally was supposed to be the album cover, but there's something about this as well. Very good. Okay, and another sort of, you know, personal grail or an album that just seems to have eluded me for a long time, the Waterboys and Fisherman's Blues. Absolutely love this album. This is Mike Scott on the Waterboys, their deep dive into Celtic music, Fisherman's Blues, bang on the ear. And I love the last track on here, The Stolen Child. Just a beautiful album, and I love the cover, and it's really nice to see the cover LP size. Even though it's kind of straightforward, it does work on a CD size. It's really nice LP size, and just was so happy to come across this one. It includes the original inner sleeve, and again, you can seek this one out. This was like late 80s, I want to say 1988. on Chrysalis, Waterboys, a terrific album. Okay, and certainly darlings of the vinyl community is XTC, and came across XTC and the English Settlement. And this is a double album, and this one is, again, it's not a reissue, and it's got the nice raised lettering, and a double album set, not gatefold, but it does include the original inner sleeves. And yeah, again, Senses Working Overtime. You know, another great classic XTC album. And the fella that I bought this off was happy I was picking it up, and is a huge XTC fan for sure. Okay, and another Rory Gallagher. This is the reissue of the album Calling Card, and this on Sony Music and Music on Vinyl. Really getting into Rory Gallagher, and boy, there's more Rory Gallagher reissues coming out. Another box set that's coming out as well. Another personal grail. I've never come across this one for whatever reason. This is the Perth County Conspiracy. I've talked about this band many times. Perth County Conspiracy does not exist. A sort of a folk psychedelic collective from the Stratford, Ontario area. They had a bar called the Black Swan Coffee House that had performances and that sort of thing. So this is their album Breakout to Berlin. In Germany, or West Germany, or maybe even East Germany as well, it was known as simply Canada with a K. So this is a studio recording, so they actually went to Germany to record this, and I like how it's recorded and mixed for distribution in socialist countries. The Rumor edition, that's their independent label, Rumor. Manufactured in Canada, available by mail at the time, send $4 plus 50 cents handling to Rumor Records, Box 173, Stratford, Ontario. So again, it features Cedric Smith, original members, along with Richard Keelan. And this was pretty much their last album. Again, studio album. They would make another one after this with Cedric Smith and Terry Jones called 10 Lost Years, which was a soundtrack to a play. And it did feature a lot of Perth County members on that album. But in terms of a PCC, or Perth County Conspiracy album, this was pretty much the last one. Again, this is the Canadian or North American. And ironically, picked this up at the record store, signed by Cedric Smith. There you go. Okay, these are more vinyl finds, both online vinyl finds and thrift store vinyl finds. Peter Green, this is Little Dreamer, and this is the Canadian cover to this one. I probably want to say the US, or at least the UK cover has kind of like a sunset kind of thing going on. Very nice Peter Green record. This really has kind of a early 80s look to the cover, but it's great blues, and he does a really nice cover of Born Under a Bad Sign on this one. So happy to have that one. Okay, an unusual maybe a thrift store find or an online find. This is a band called Anata, and the spelling is something like A-N-A-N-T-A. Yeah, A-N-A-N-T-A, Anata, and it is called Night and Daydream, and they thank George Harrison, Neil Diamond, and Bob Marley on this one. And this is described as a benefit album. All the artists who contributed to its productions did so without remuneration, and it says promo copy, but the promo copy, it's actually not a sticker, and apparently this was on all the copies. This is kind of proggy, kind of light proggy, but the idea behind this was that this is for Hare Krishna devotees, and that they would sell this album by donation, that sort of thing. So not bad, not outstanding, but an interesting find on that one. Okay, how about some yacht rock with Robert John? Picked up this one at a thrift store, and of course this has the track Sad Eyes. You know, very nice middle of the road kind of stuff. Something a little different, an Ike and Tina Turner album, Rock Me Baby, a collector's classic. And of course, Tina Turner featured there. And this is on the Aston label. So this features, you know, some of the early Ike and Tina Turner stuff. Not exactly a best of by any stretch, but it's got Poor Little Fool on here, Rock Me Baby. Nice listen. I'm not too familiar with the Aston label. I'm not sure if that's a European label or not, but happy to pick that up. And speaking of Tina Turner, came across a couple of Tina Turner records. We've got Tina Turner, Break Every Rule, and Tina Turner with Foreign Affair. This one, in terms of, I remember when these came out, in retrospect, this one didn't really grab me in terms of, like, a typical male was a big hit on this one. But it just didn't really, I don't know, this one just didn't really grab me. I did enjoy listening to this one. This one features the track The Best, which is a great song. Steamy Windows also featured on this one. It's interesting on this album, how many songs are by Tony Joe White. He writes a number of them, including Steamy Windows. He co-wrote a few of the other tracks on here. Including Foreign Affair, Dan Hartman production all over this one, Tony Joe White, which is interesting because he has really that sort of R&B and blues kind of background. He had the hit Poke Salad Annie, but wrote a number of the songs featured on this one. And this one is a nice gatefold, which features a great picture of Tina Turner on the gatefold. So there you go, some memories of Tina Turner from the late 80s. Artist called Bo Hansen, a Swedish artist, very much in the sort of Mike Oldfield vein, and his album's on the Charisma label. And this is the European version of his interpretation of Watership Down, hence the rabbits on the cover. In English, it's a different title. I don't think it's Watership Down, the English title, but it's something in that vein. But yeah, it's basically his interpretation of the novel Watership Down, as much as his first album, which was an interpretation of the novels Lord of the Rings, that sort of thing. Okay, picked up some Marillion. How about that? Marillion Live, reel to reel, terrific Marillion Live album. I do love the lead singer Fish, how much he reminds me of Peter Gabriel. But side one is recorded in Montreal, and side two recorded in England. And really enjoyed this one. Slowly getting into a Marillion. It's a band I don't have too much of, but certainly enjoying. And we've got a Welsh band for you this time. This is the band Man, and managed to find two albums. One is Slow Motion, and the other is Be Good to Yourself at Least Once a Day. And as you can see with this one, very much the Alfred E. Newman Mad Magazine inspired cover. And this one originally had a sort of a big map that was included. This is a slightly later issue, but it does, as a gatefold, include that sort of map that I was talking about as part of the gatefold. Great band, not particularly heavy rock or anything like that. I would say very much Beatles inspired from their sound. Great harmonies, and well worth listening to and well worth checking out. Man. Okay, and certainly another great artist is Nils Lofgren. This is Nils Lofgren with Grin and All Out. And this is a slightly later issue on the Columbia limited edition label. Not familiar with that particular label, but nice to add this one to the collection. And Nils Lofgren with the album Cry Tough. And some great artists featured on this one. Jim Gordon is on drums. Al Cooper's also featured on here. So happy to come across those. Some UK blues. How about Savoy Brown? And this is Lion's Share, and they do a great cover of Howlin' for My Darling on this one, and kind of a fun, whimsical cover that opens up like this with the inner sleeve and the band layer. Let's see if I can take this out. The cover's maybe not in the best of condition, but the album plays great, and there you go. Whoop, let's take it right out there. And on the Parrot label, on the Tom Jones label. Okay. How about Vangelis? This is the album Spiral. I do enjoy Vangelis, an artist I used to kind of, dismiss or not take too seriously. I mean, I do enjoy Chariots of Fire. I do like a lot of the John and Vangelis stuff, but in terms of a lot more of his solo stuff, it would be like, I've been really enjoying it, really enjoying his solo stuff. So happy to pick that one up. Okay, picked this one up surprisingly for cheap. I didn't have this one. This is Traffic and Last Exit, side 2, recorded live at the Fillmore West. Terrific. Absolutely terrific. Traffic, Steve Winwood. A Billy Preston album, and this is Billy Preston and Music Is My Life. And this one contains the hit, Will It Go Round in Circles. Always happy to pick up any Billy Preston. And there you go. So a Billy Preston record. Sam Brown, she is a solo artist who would later be singing with Pink Floyd on backing vocals, the David Gilmour Pink Floyd years. But this is, I believe, her second solo album, Sam Brown, and the album April Moon. And David Gilmour does guest on this album, but he doesn't play on this album. He sings on one of the tracks. And there's kind of a whimsical sort of inner sleeve photos of the people that appear on this album. And I'm thinking, oh, David Gilmour's probably not on there. Well, yes, he is. There he is. David Gilmour there, and Sam Brown and April Moon. She, just a terrific kind of soulful R&B kind of sound. Okay, something in terms of the cover, you'd think it's a jazz record, but it's more calypso style. This is Fats Shake 'Em Up with Claude Fats Green featuring Pritchard. So again, as mentioned, it's a whole sort of calypso thing. The big hit from this was Fats Shake 'Em Up. Claude Fats Green, who when this was issued, I think in the late 60s, or sorry, he passed away. This album is dedicated to the memory of Fats Green, who passed away January 13th, 1968, and I think this is an early 70s issue on the Camille label, but not too bad. I picked this up at a thrift store. You know, it's calypso, but it works. It's nice. It's nice listen. Okay, a little bit more yacht rock for you. How about Jim Messina? And this is the album Oasis. Again, Jim Messina of Loggins and Messina fame. I didn't have too many solo albums, but you know, enjoyed that one. He's got just a generally nice sound. Picked this up at a local thrift store. Was thrilled. Madness, One Step Beyond, couldn't believe it, but such a great album. Again, on Sire Records, the whole sort of UK ska thing going on, One Step Beyond, and an absolutely terrific cover. Really happy to pick that one up. This was kind of a blind buy. This is a band called The Nobodies and No Guarantee, and one of their tracks was featured on an episode of Miami Vice. I think it's the title track. No guarantees, but I could be wrong on this one. But sort of as their name would suggest, I think this was like their only album, and then they just kind of dropped off. They had a nice kind of late 70s, early 80s sound. I believe a French band, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I was happy to come across that one. Okay, a movie soundtrack, typically to a movie I was not familiar with. The movie is called Dudes, but check out the artists on this soundtrack. So I said, yes, please, I will take a copy of that. And this album rocks. It is really, really good. You can see the song listing there. Again, a movie I'm not familiar with at all. I don't think the movie itself used this kind of cover. I think this is exclusively for the soundtrack, but it's one of those, wow, interesting artists for a soundtrack like that. Okay, how about Mick Ronson and Slaughter on 10th Avenue? The cover maybe not in the best of shape, but the album is fine. Mick Ronson, guitarist with Ian Hunter, with David Bowie, fantastic, and starting it off with Love Me Tender, but you know, a great cover that only Mick Ronson can do, and then Slaughter on 10th Avenue to wrap it up. Thoroughly enjoyable. And speaking of thoroughly enjoyable, I posted this one on my Instagram page. This is killer. Leon Live. This is a triple album from Leon Russell, and he's on fire. The band is on fire. You know, this is just absolutely terrific. If you come across this one, and if you enjoy live albums, I know some people don't really care for live albums, but this is absolutely terrific. Leon Russell, in many ways, a great place to start with Leon Russell. He's had a lot of albums over his career. I wasn't even familiar with that particular live album, but absolutely enjoyed it. Okay, I've been coming across some Brian Auger recently. This is Brian Auger's Oblivion and the album Reinforcements. Also, more yacht rock with Walter Egan, and Walter Egan, this is Not Shy, and produced by Lindsey Buckingham, and this features, of course, the yacht rock classic Magnet and Steel that features Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham. Here's another sort of blind buy. In terms of the cover, the band is called Law, and the album is called Breakin' It. But then on the back, I noticed that it features singer Roy Kenner. And Roy Kenner was in both the James Gang and also in another Canadian band called Mandela. Roy Kenner, Canadian, and this really has that sort of good funky R&B thing going on that you wouldn't necessarily have guessed from the cover. You thought maybe more of a rock or whatever, but yeah, I really enjoyed this. This was terrific, so worth checking out. Law, I don't think they had too many albums, but this is the album Breakin' It. Okay, I seem to be in kind of a yacht rock theme. This is Kenny Loggins and Night Watch, and this features Stevie Nicks on the track, Whenever I Call You Friend, and an unnecessary cover of Down in the Boondocks. I like the song Down in the Boondocks, just Kenny Loggins cover is okay, but overall, not a bad album. Okay, some Blood, Sweat and Tears. I've got Blood, Sweat and Tears featuring David Clayton Thomas and New City. This one they do a cover of Ride Captain Ride on this one, and also a cover of Got to Get You Into My Life, which was a hit for the group. This, I think, was one of the last albums before they took a break, and then before they sort of came back. I'm not sure if they came back specifically with this one, but this is Blood, Sweat and Tears and Nuclear Blues. Very unfortunate cover, not a bad album. They do a cover of Manic Depression on this one, but actually it's not great, but the rest of the album is pretty solid. The first track, Agitato, is really great, an instrumental track. And this is a sort of David Clayton Thomas back with Blood, Sweat and Tears, but then the rest of the band members are all replaced by, I think, predominantly Canadian musicians on this one. But yeah, you don't often see this one, but do enjoy this album, Nuclear Blues. Just the cover is what it is. And a David Clayton Thomas solo album. We have this one. I do really like the cover on this one. I don't know. It's just something about it. This one very much in the sort of Blood, Sweat and Tears vein. This came out in 1972. Magnificent Sanctuary Band was the hit on this one. And this also gatefolds, so I can just show you that. And David Clayton Thomas. Okay, here is a thrift store find. Rita Marley. I found it at a thrift store. Yes, indeed. And this is Rita Marley, Who Feels It, Knows It. Really happy to come across that one. Your typical sort of thrift store find. This is Dr. Hook, the best of Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show. And this is a slightly later issue because the original, I don't think, had this sticker on it. And the sticker is actually part of the artwork here. But, you know, Sylvia's Mother, cover of the Rolling Stones. So you're talking early Dr. Hook on this one. No, happy to come across that. This was certainly sort of a blind buy at a thrift store. This is the band Sea Level. And, you know, in terms of the cover, you know, could be something going on there. But then looking on the back, and I see Mr. Chuck Leavell featured here. And so it's like, yes, please. I'm in. So, yeah, this is, I guess the name is sort of a takeoff on Chuck Leavell or Sea Level. I guess it's something like that. Really kind of a jazz rock thing, but still with a bit of that southern thing going on. So happy to come across that one. I'm very surprised to see that one at a thrift store. Okay, AGK Vinyl. I talked about this one. This is Neil Diamond Gold, but this is a Neil Diamond live album. It's not simply just a best of. It's recorded live at the Troubadour. So great venue, and Neil Diamond is, you know, on fire for this one. It's a great live recording. Unfortunately, this is not the best jacket with the signature all over the back and the front, but happy to get that one. Speaking of which, another live album, Three Dog Night. I was not familiar with this one. This is Three Dog Night and Around the World with Three Dog Night. And this features, you know, pretty much all the big Three Dog Night hits, and especially with this band, there's always interesting artwork, or at least, you know, photography or general presentation with the band, with you know, these sleeves and everything going on. I think there's stuff even behind there, like that. You know, the way this pops out like this. And then there's, you know, photography even behind there like that. So a good double live album for Three Dog Night to pick up. And maybe I can show you the extended cover here. So yeah, some interesting stuff with Three Dog Night and Around the World. Okay, how about some Buddy Miles? Yeah, Buddy Miles and We've Got to Live Together. And also picked up a Buddy Miles double live album that I was not familiar with and simply called Live. So I can show you the gatefold here on the double live. But very nice. Okay, this actually was also a Record Store Day leftover. I wasn't sure if I was going to pick this one up, but I did. Stevie Nicks, this is Belladonna, and this is originally released as a single LP. This one is the double LP with sort of the extra tracks that was initially on the deluxe 2 CD version. It's a great solo album from Stevie Nicks. When you got Belladonna, Stop Dragging My Heart Around with Tom Petty, Edge of 17, great track, Leather and Lace with Don Henley. You know, it's a solid debut from Stevie Nicks. Duo I was not familiar with. Picked this up at a thrift store. This is Joe and Eddie in concert. Joe and Eddie have kind of that sort of folk, spiritual pop thing going on, as you can tell by the song titles there. But enjoyed listening to it. Really beautiful voices, and might seek out some more of their stuff. I think you tend to find some of their stuff, you know, in thrift stores or wherever. But Joe and Eddie enjoyed that. Okay, again, a cover that's not in the best of shape, but this is A Taste of CTI Kudo Volume 1, spotlighting jazz. This is a little more into the sort of smooth jazz kind of thing that I'm not a huge fan of, although I still did enjoy this album. You can see the artists listed there, including George Benson, Esther Phillips, that sort of thing, Grover Washington Jr. But yeah, the cover in terrible condition, but the album plays okay. And some nostalgia. We've got George Shearing teamed up with Nancy Wilson, the George Shearing Quintet with Nancy Wilson and the Swingins Mutual. There you go. I do love that cover. And Nancy Wilson, terrific vocalist, and teamed up with George Shearing. Very nice. Okay, some 80s memories from Yaz. How about to Alison Moyet? And this is the album Alf. And of course, Invincible, huge hit with this one. And yeah, I was happy to pick this up. This was a thrift store find, surprisingly. Okay, always happy to pick up any and all Steel Eye Span. And this is the album Commoner's Crown, with a lot going on in that crown. But, you know, Steel Eye Span, great sort of folk music from the UK. Robin Trower Live. Wasn't familiar with this particular live album, and it's Robin Trower, you cannot go wrong. Of course, formerly of Procol Harum. Terrific live album. Okay, this is a Canadian band you may or may not be familiar with. The band is called Dr. Music. Very much kind of a jazz pop thing going on, but they did have radio hits too. This is one of their last albums called Bedtime Story. No big hits off this one, but some extended tracks on this one. Doug Riley was the featured member with this band, Doug Riley, and I managed to pick up a Doug Riley solo album as well. This is Doug Riley and Dreams. And side 2 is Dreams by Don Thompson, and that takes all of side 2, again, sort of continuing in that kind of jazz or jazz rock sort of theme. Always happy to pick up any and all Al Kooper records, and I do like Al Kooper, just the humor, especially with his album covers. And here we have Championship Wrestling. You know, they take that whole wrestling thing and then run with it. And this also features Mickey Thomas vocals on a couple of tracks. Of course, Mickey Thomas with both Elvin Bishop and with Jefferson Starship, and also features Jeff Baxter on this one as well. So happy to pick that one up. Okay, this was I'm so glad I came across this one. This is the Velvet Underground and the infamous Max's Kansas City. And this is Lou Reed, Doug Yule, Billy Yule, and Sterling Morrison, the lineup for this one. And this is, yeah, as far as I understand, it's an OG copy. It's definitely not a reissue, but yeah, really happy to pick that one up. Okay, a little bit of country rock for you. How about Greatest Hits of the Outlaws? called High Tides Forever. And I like this band. I mean, great guitar work, great vocals. And it's, again, with some of these country rock bands, this one, again, more on the rock side of the country rock sort of thing going on. Green Grass and High Tides, fantastic. Their version of Ghost Riders in the Sky. And there goes another love song, Outlaws. Okay, an artist I was not familiar with, picked this one up, Kenny Rankin and Silver Morning. And as you can tell, it's got that sort of, laid back acoustic guitar sort of thing going on. Lovely version of the Beatles tune Blackbird. Also does People Get Ready. Also does Penny Lane on this one as well. Again, very laid back, very acoustic kind of thing. But as you can see, this one is an actual promo copy with a stamp on there. Very happy to pick that one up. Naked Eyes. Always enjoyed this band. This cover is not in the best of shape at all. It's got that kind of waviness to it. I think possibly water damaged at one point, but always something there to remind me. A great radio-friendly hit, along with Promises, Promises. And I'm not sure if this has a different UK cover or not, but Naked Eyes. Very happy to pick that one up. Okay, got to get a little blues in there. How about James Cotton's big band and his big band live from Chicago, Mr. Super Harp himself. You cannot go wrong with the James Cotton album, and this is another great one. James Cotton and his big band live from Chicago. I should have had this one with the other Bo Hansen album. This is Bo Hansen, the artist mentioned earlier, very much in the sort of Mike Oldfield vein on Charisma. This is Magician's Hat. And again, another very nice, very enjoyable instrumental album from Bo Hansen, a Swedish artist, I believe. Okay, how about Wet Willy? This is another live album. This is Wet Willy at Left Coast Live. There you go. And of course, their big hit was Keep On Smiling. Kind of a rockin', sort of Southern style rockin' band. An artist who really, surprised, just never made it to that another level. Talking about J.D. Souther, or here known as John David Souther, and this is the album Black Rose. All the ingredients are there. He's a terrific, songwriter, great singer, but just never seemed to go, to that next level. But happy to pick that up. Good, again, singer-songwriter style, J.D. Souther. Okay. Speaking of another solo artist that, for whatever reason, just didn't seem to get to that next level, despite being from such a huge band, Supertramp, talking about Roger Hodson, his second solo album, and it's pronounced, I believe, Hi Hi. Nice album, starting to get a little bit into too much 80s kind of production on this one, but overall, not a bad record. But again, Roger Hodson, great songwriter, great singer, one of the great voices from Supertramp. But yeah, and the first solo album I enjoyed, this one not as much, and yeah, but he's still going, still touring, doing a lot of the Supertramp stuff, and he'd be great to see in concert. And a couple of James Taylor albums. We've got James Taylor and Walkin' Man, and James Taylor, and this one is, of course, One Man Dog. Not a lot of big hits on either of these albums, but, it's James Taylor. It's, again, the great singer-songwriter thing going on. And this was kind of a blind buy at my local thrift store. I had no idea, but when I saw something with a cover like that, so yeah, I think I'll pick it up. This is Ville Amand Blues Band live in Montreal, and this is great, very proggy, bluesy. This is a double live album. Both the albums are in here, and as I said, knew nothing really about this band, but absolutely terrific. Just another great Quebec band, and yeah, if I come across any more of their stuff, I'll definitely will pick it up. But worth checking out. And maybe we've got time for a few more. This was another odd buy at my local thrift store. I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy it or not. Knew absolutely nothing about it. I don't even know if I want to pronounce any of it. I'm thinking, what exactly is this? So this is like, it's a French album, but it's like French Romanian music. It's sort of very sort of folk driven, but folk world driven, with violins, very intense at times, a very interesting listen. Not something I'm not necessarily going to play all the time, but was worth definitely picking up. And this is definitely like, it's that sort of European with a very thin album cover, but enjoyed it. I don't know if I'm going to be playing it all the time. Certainly an artist I do play all the time is Bruce Coburn. Happy to pick up Bruce Coburn's Waiting for a Miracle. This is basically a double album that is sort of a kind of a Bruce Coburn greatest hits, going through his early career to about his 80s stuff. So this is singles, 1970 to 1987, and always do love the covers. And this came with an original Records on Wheels bag sort of thing. So happy to pick up any Bruce Coburn. This is an artist. I've got a few records from this artist. This is Mungo Santa Maria, and this is the album Red Hot. I'm starting to enjoy this artist. There's Watermelon Man on this one, and yeah, just in terms of the kind of jazzy kind of sound overall, certainly enjoying this artist for sure. Okay, how about a couple of James Brown albums? We've got obviously a reissue, but finally got this absolute classic in my collection. This probably should have been with sort of my personal grails, but my gosh, what a terrific live album. The Apollo Theater presents in person the James Brown Show. What can you say? This is a fantastic album. And obviously this one just a later issue. And an album I really got into, James Brown and Gravity. Production of Dan Hartman all over this album. But yeah, this album works. I really enjoyed the title track. Also Living in America is featured on this one. That was, I believe, in one of the Rocky movies. But yeah, James Brown and Gravity. Okay, this is a little bit, we go from great James Brown, funk and soul, to the folk sounds of Judy Collins. And this is Judy Collins, Who Knows Where the Time Goes. This is a later issue because I think the original was a gatefold, but this is not a gatefold, but another very enjoyable Judy Collins, early Judy Collins album. Early Ted Nugent, Amboy Dukes, Marriage on the Rocks and Rock Bottom, an album that rocks hard. Not, again, the cover not in the best of shape. I think that was the original sticker or something was on the corner there. But love the Amboy Dukes, with Ted Nugent, great guitar work, and certainly enjoyed that one. Okay, let's switch gears with Buck Owens. Live album in London. Buck Owens and the Buckaroos really trying hard to please the audience, and the audience very receptive, and they kind of do a little bit of sort of Beatles flavored stuff, if you will, but yeah, very enjoyable. East Coast artist, sadly no longer with us, Rita Mcneil. From the cover, it looks like an early Rita Mcneil album, but it's not. It's from 1989 on Virgin. Great singer, Rita Mcneil, in very much the East Coast style for Canada. So a lot of the kind of the folky or the traditional stuff, but just a terrific voice who's certainly missed. Okay, this is the Guess Who. And this is definitely like not an original album cover, but this features early Guess Who. A lot of it sort of pre-Burton Cummings, when it was Chad Allen and the Expressions, which became the Guess Who, and their cover of Shakin' All Over's on this one, but also things like Tossin' and Turnin', His Girl. But there's a few Burton Cummings tunes on here, Hey Ho. But this is like a later issue, sort of capitalizing on the early Guess Who. But yeah, a lot going on in that cover there. Okay, so I think that's going to wrap it up for this one. Thanks so much for dropping by, if you're still here, and we'll chat again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.